Hi, good morning. I don't know where you are, so
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
so it is good morning for you too.
Good morning. And where are you?
In Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're in the same place.
Yeah. How nice. Thank you so much for coming and for joining the project. I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea what it's about. I'm sorry, my puppy is losing its mind at the back end. So I'm an artist and storyteller. I am based in Toronto, Canada, but I do exhibitions around the world. And this one is particularly important because it will be an exhibition of women's stories, and it will be displayed interactively during the event in Lisbon, where we're actually celebrating 50 years of the Year of the Woman. But then it's going to live globally in a multi-year project. So it's going to keep growing with stories of women from interdisciplinary professions, and hopefully we'll come to Casa Loma in March to celebrate Women's Day. So that's the idea of the video. Very short, but very authentic stories so far. And people just share who they are and what's their notion of success. Because we're all facing a lot of challenges nowadays. And I feel it's a good reminder to talk about what really matters in life and business, but with a little bit of a twist.
Hmm. Thank you for the intro. How did you find me? I know you found me on LinkedIn, but did you
Yeah,
see a post or?
well, I have a. It's interesting because this one particularly it's called Alchemy of Women, and it has its own way of connecting me with women. It started
Mhm.
around Web Summit, I'll be honest, so that's how it generated. But then it was also connections, seeing people that interact. I wanted to make sure that we have diverse voices in terms of people that have been change makers in their areas. So that's important,
Mhm.
and that's
So
how I came
yeah.
about to see your profile.
Ah, so how did you get into this project? Is this your project that you're spearheading?
Yeah, it's my project. It started with a couple of sculptures I placed in front of AGO, to be honest. And then I
Mhm.
started noticing how people are interacting more with the sculptures than they are with the homeless people around the corner.
Mhm.
And then I've asked the sculptures to, um, I put soup in front of one of the sculptures, and I asked people to take one soup and give to somebody in need, and that triggered multiple responses. And I've been in business for so long, so I believe that there's so much talent and creativity out there and innovation, and yet we're still facing the same challenges that we faced 50 years ago and so much further back. And I
Mhm.
feel it's about time to redefine power and success. So that's the idea behind the project.
Wow, that's really admirable.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The project also is part of my master's, so it will be put back in academia with some concrete action steps and how can we truly put innovation to work, not
Mhm.
just technology, but our human potential and talent, because I feel that each one of us brings so much experience. You should see some of the women on the panel. We'll have a BBC journalist. She has 25 years with BBC and reporting on all the big crises in the world. We have a chef from Chile and like just beautiful, beautiful stories of perseverance and, good creative power.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I'm sorry I couldn't attend the live event just because I'm flying in that morning, and then I already have another commitment around the
Yeah,
same time. So I would have yeah, I would have liked to have been there in person. But
maybe
yeah,
you
but
come
glad to
in
meet.
March.
Yeah, yeah. Let me
Yeah,
know once you have a date in place, and so I can pencil it in.
absolutely. So tell me about you. Like now it's your spotlight.
Yeah. Well, where to start? So I was born and grew up in China until I was 19 years old, and then I took a scholarship to go to Germany to do my degree in German literature, and just a chance opportunity brought me to Canada during one of the summers because my roommate is from Edmonton, Alberta. and she invited me to come to Canada with her, just to explore the country. And at the time, I did not speak a word of English, and I was fluent in German. I obviously spoke Chinese, and I was bored because I had nobody to communicate to when she's not around. So, and it was during the summertime, and I just walked around, and the place that she lived was very close to the University of Alberta campus. And I just went to the campus, and maybe it's fate. I just looked up, and there's this building with a giant sign that says Germanic Languages and Literature. So I went inside. Of course, it's in the middle of the summer and there's nobody around. So I followed the sign, went to the second floor where the department was, and I saw this gray-haired gentleman sitting behind two glass doors. So I went in and I just assumed because this is the German department and someone working there had to speak fluent German, and I was right. So I knocked on the door, I went in, I just introduced myself in German, and he nearly fell out of his chair because I didn't look German to him at all. So one thing led to another. We had a conversation for over an hour, and he was just so surprised and I guess in a way impressed that someone looking like me could speak fluent German. So he asked me all the questions about how I came to Canada, why did I speak fluent German? So I told him about my story and what I did in Germany. And at the end of that conversation, he basically said, this is you don't have to answer or decide if you think this question is not appropriate, but have you ever considered coming here to do your master's degree? And I said, no, not at all. I'm only here for a few weeks and I'm gonna go back and finish my degree. And he said, you know what, from everything you told me, you've actually already achieved a lot in Germany, and that's comparable to a master's degree here. And you could, in fact, start in the master's program. And the only condition is you have to pass English as the second language. And during that probational period, you wouldn't be eligible for any scholarship, any teaching or research scholarship. So I said, well, thank you so much. I'm really flattered, but no, no, that's not in the plan. And he said, well, think about it. You don't have to decide right now. And if you do change your mind, come back. And the application deadline is Monday. So that was kind of like a Thursday or Friday in the prior week that we spoke. So I went back and chatted with my friend, and I basically just went through this thought process that, hey, I'm young, I'm 22, I had nothing to lose, and there's this opportunity. So I went back, and the rest is history. That's how I got to Canada. I finished my master's degree, and then I had to decide if I was going to pursue my PhD or going to find a job. And that was during a time where the economy wasn't doing well. It was at the beginning of a recession. And then I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna go find a job because I have to pay my bills and feed myself. And so I moved to Toronto, and initially it was hard. Someone with a master's degree in German literature, it's very hard to find something. So I started with teaching German as a second language, just part-time jobs and doing translation jobs. And eventually I saw an ad in the Globe looking for someone with the ability to speak German fluently, working for a company that's in the travel industry. That's not a travel agency, but a travel wholesale company that's dealing with the overseas travel agencies in Europe. So that's why they wanted to look for someone with the ability to speak German in a operations slash marketing capacity. So I went for my interview, had no expectation that would ever be considered, and I got the job. It was an entry level position, but that really gave me the start in the industry. But then eventually I made the decision that this is not really the industry for me. And I really wanted to pursue something that would give me the opportunity to continue to grow. And it was around the time where technology, the whole dot-com boom was happening, and I know friends and mutual connections that work in the Silicon Valley, and they're all making a lot of money, or at least that's the perception. And I was young. I'm like, I've been working hard, and I need to give myself a chance to prosper as well. So I decided, I stayed with that company for quite a few years and just moving around the organization and really advancing my career as well. But then I reached a point where I decided, I need to give the technology industry a try. So again, it took quite a few months for me to secure the very first interview. And I was applying for a technology marketing manager role that required 10 to 15 years of industry experience that I had none. And again, it wasn't easy at all to even get the first interview. And back then, there was just phone calls essentially and emails. There's nothing else. And I guess just through perseverance, I finally got a call back and to go into that very software company and spoke to the hiring manager. And I think at that time I was so sick and tired of the rejections and just total silence. And I just decided, you know what? I don't have to really present myself in a way that's not me. And I can just be very truthful to tell my story. So I remember one of the questions he asked me was, why should I even waste my time having this conversation with you? Why should I consider you with, your background of having not been in the technology industry and without the experience that's required? So I just said, look, if you're looking for someone on paper that fits all the criteria, then surely I'm not the person. But if you're looking for someone with the drive, with the ability and the resiliency to actually get there. That's me. I said, I think I've already proven myself at a very young age of 19, having moved to different countries, not once, but eventually twice, and having to learn new languages and adapting the new culture and then establishing myself. I said, I think I have what it takes to be successful. And if that is what you see in people, the potential and the ability and the desire to succeed, then I'm your person. So I think he was completely shocked that I answered the question that way, and I got the job. And, that was sort of my first foray into the technology industry. And then I stayed with three big technology companies for over a decade in corporate technology and in technology marketing management role and moving up the ladder. And then during one of the technology industry merger and acquisition, so the company I was with got bought by another company, and I was faced with a decision what to do. Like, am I going to move on with the acquirer, or am I going to look for something else? And around that time, I reflected on what I really wanted to do. And this ties back to your original question about what success really means for people. And to me, even though the earlier part of my career was to really establish myself in a new country and to prove myself that I could switch from academia to industries and from non-tech to tech. But I always felt throughout my corporate career is that no matter what position I'm in or how high up of the ladder you aim to get to, it's about what do you feel that you're adding value to uh, your surroundings and to your network and to the people that you interact with in general. And more importantly, do you have total control of that? Do you have total control of what you believe is the right thing to do? Do you have total control of your time? Do you feel that you're spending that much time and in return you're getting the satisfaction of truly achieving? And that led me to a conversation with a past collaborator about what's the next step. And it just so happened all the stars align, and he wanted to have a conversation with me about what next step is for him. He's much, much older. He could be retiring, but he still had a bundle of energy and wanting to do something else. And then that led to him introducing another business partners. So the three of us 15 years ago started a company called the IT Media Group that I'm still running today. And it is a senior technology leader centric technology media company. So basically, we facilitate the content connections, conversation, and collaboration between the chief information executive, so the head of technology
Mhm.
at each organization, and to really create a platform and a forum for everyone to connect and have conversations, exchange ideas, and help each other be successful. So now it's nearly 15 years later, and I've been, not only running the business of the company, but I've had this huge privilege and enjoyment from connecting with people across industries and helping them really be successful, not just sharing ideas and facilitating the connections and conversations among themselves, but really to help them be successful in terms of their personal branding as well, and finding what drives them to get up every morning. So that's kind of what I've been spending my time on. But then in the last few years, especially I think at the start of COVID, have also gotten very much involved in the industry from a women in technology, women in
Mm.
leadership perspective, because that's always been my passion, being in technology as a woman and especially as an immigrant and coming to Canada. And I've had my share of struggles establishing myself. And in the early days of my corporate career, and it was very few women and women leaders in the leadership at the leadership table, no matter where you turn to. And and I've seen that changing for the better over the last few years, but still the needle is moving very slowly. And now, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of the reversing trend because of you know, what's happening south of the border, which is sad because that makes me realize oftentimes our corporations or organizations doing the right thing because they have to check the boxes,
Mhm.
or are they doing the right thing because they truly believe in it and stand behind it? So I've been spending my time in the last several years getting involved from a mentorship perspective and from an advocacy perspective in terms of speaking at industry events, at women in leadership type of events, not just to tell my story, but to really share the experiences, but also some of the best practices that I've come to learn. And because I think for women, we all know there are a lot of areas that we thrive, that we do way better. We have much more higher emotional intelligence, but oftentimes we question ourselves or we wanted to thrive for perfection. We don't raise our hands until we're 200% sure
Mhm.
to go for a promotion or anything else. So I think a lot of young women in particular, I have a daughter, and to me, this is also personal because I don't want her to experience some of the things that I wasted time on. And so, and along that line, a couple of years ago, I also had another sort of realization because I've done so many things in the mentorship and advocacy front, but then I realized from the root cause, there are two root causes. One is when women are in school, when we were very young as young girls, there's as many young girls great at math and physics and all these subjects as boys. And then but eventually the numbers started dropping off, especially at the senior leadership level. But then fundamentally, when I look at the innovation space and how much funding and money from the venture capital space that is pouring into supporting the founders. And there's a huge disparity. There's only 2 to 3% of women founded companies that's been invested.
Mhm.
And so that led me to pursue another path, which is, through my connections, I was introduced to this women's angel collective, and we have several chapters across Canada, and one in Silicon Valley as well. It's called Women's Equity Lab. Basically, it's a collective of all women investors that pool our capital, and then we invite startup companies to come in and pitch, and we prioritize women funded and led companies. And so I've been working with them as a limited partner for the last couple of years. So I figure it's time to basically, truly practice what I preach.
Mhm.
And and that's essentially what I do and how I got to this point today. So I'm still running the company, but I'm very selective in who I want to work with in terms of choosing the clients and the programs, and which still gives me that satisfaction because I still feel like I'm helping people, I'm having fun. So that's why I'm not giving it up. Both of my partners have retired 10 years ago and I took it over completely. And then I'm spending quite a bit of a time still doing the mentoring advocacy and going to Web Summit and speaking and meeting with startup founders. And it's one of the things, and giving a master class, but then also very much involved hands-on in the investor slash startup community. And so that those are the three core pillars in terms of what I do, and what drives me was just my fundamental belief in uh, let's do this together, and
Mhm.
I could add value, and I wanted to impart that awareness, especially in younger women,
Mhm.
to so that they can avoid some of the mistakes that I made in the early days.
Oh my gosh, you're my hero. These are all, you touched all the points. There's a research that says that exactly what you said about women.
Mhm.
We raise our hand only when we're 200%, but research supports that men get promoted based on potential and women on experience, which
Yep.
means that puts women behind at least 10 years.
Hmm.
Because by the time you get that experience, by the time, especially when we talk about leadership roles, but there is something else that you've touched upon, which is so relevant. Uh, when I was in marketing and communications for 2 decades. Like similar to you, I'm very selective now with who I work, and I just want projects that have meaning and leave a sustainable footprint. But I tell people I got my real estate broker's license so I can be better in my real estate job. And when people
Yeah.
say, what, you went through that? I'm like, yeah, because that's who I am. And
Hmm.
I feel that quite often the recruitment industry, the way the business is structured in general, perhaps we're focusing on the wrong things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because
I have a
raising two
friend.
children and going
Yeah.
to school and doing all of that, it's so much valuable, more valuable than sitting in an office for 2 years and punching the
Mhm.
keyboard, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I have a friend who's a real estate broker as well. She's very successful, and she had her degree in psychology. And then she also was a speech therapist. So you have to have the ability to communicate, work with people, and most importantly, listen to what people really are saying. And I think those with marketing background, communications background, that's key
Yeah,
to
communications
success.
are key. Actually, partially why I went back to school because I was so, like you, irritated and challenged with what's going on and why are things not moving ahead. Like we see so many great initiatives, but then the overall picture, as you said, only 2% of women. And I've heard that statistic over and over again because I'm part of the ecosystem too a little bit. And I don't know why. Why are we still here when there's so many women that are founding businesses? And also there's another part, a lot of businesses don't get funding at the beginning, right? Which is the hardest part.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because unfortunately, you're not going to be there on the panel, but what do you think needs to happen? You're already doing a lot of the things. You are doing it. But the reason why we're doing the events is because we want interdisciplinary women to start forming those bonds, not just be in technology, not just in finance, not just startups. We want women from all over the industry to come and talk. What do you think needs to happen to
Well,
move forward with something
yeah.
tangible in 2026?
Well, I think obviously the movement needs to continue, and one of the things I often experience is we may create momentum for a period of time, and then people get busy,
Mhm,
or the overall mandate changes, or
mhm,
budget situation changes, and that peters out. So I've been fortunate to be sitting on a few advisory board, for women leadership and women in technology in particular, and even in those capacity, I experience those inconsistency. So I think consistency is the key when, you're doing all these great things and panel and to commit to, the dates and location and to make that a cadence. But then also in between events, there may be ways to do some sort of virtual connect on a regular basis. So that is important. But then the most important thing is we can be always talking in the echo chamber. We have to get allies
mhm,
in the room. We have to involve more men. A- and what I find was in many of the women sort of events that we're driving, we're open to inviting men. So there's
mhm.
no organizer that says, only women only. But typically the men that came are already converted, like they're already supporters.
They're already allies, I know.
They're already allies, right?
Yeah.
That's why they want to be there. They want to be on the panel representing the men. So the challenge is how do we get more men who are still sitting on the fence,
Mhm,
or they're not egotistic people. They're not aware. They're not self-aware. And because when we think about men in general, we think about their role in a corporate or in a business setting, but everyone would have mothers or daughters or sisters or wives. And not everyone, but a lot of them
everybody
would,
had a mom, that's for sure.
for sure, right? So in that setting, I think it's to make, again, it's an awareness thing first and foremost, and how do we influence more men to get on with it? Because to me, that's always been the breaking point, is
Mhm,
we're preaching to the converted. And that is important because especially for the younger generation, and as I talked about earlier, at least we can create awareness and help them get there faster and help them to be more mindful of their surroundings. Or even, the way I talk with my daughter is that,
How old is your
I
daughter?
oh, she's 26. She's working. She's been in the workforce for 4 years now, and she just switched a job to a new company, and she's very mindful. But sometimes when you're in your 20s, you still don't know, especially when it's a conflict or when it comes to promotion of really, trying to vouch for yourself and what are some of the steps you should
Mhm,
take. So I think there's a lot of value in getting women together and share and educate, especially the younger generations. There's the consistency and the cadence need to be there, but then there should definitely be ways to figure out how to get more men involved,
mhm.
because that will be the game changer.
Yeah,
And there's
I agree.
still a lot of key positions across the industry or within the organization that's held by those that may or may not realize we have a problem.
Mhm. And last question, because I'm so mindful of the time, but I so much enjoy talking to you. Um, Quite often, I find that investors don't invest in social enterprises because realistically, the capital and the return on investment is different in such case. But what I found through my experience and my research is that art opens doors quite often when they're closed for business.
Mm.
And I do that over and over again to prove people wrong. And I'm so far I'm grateful because it's been the case. And we've partnered artists and business. We've partnered. We've created some very unique projects that have brought in community, that have brought in some other business. Why do you think investors don't see social enterprises? Why are we still in that capital focus? And I understand money needs to come back, but there's a bigger picture.
Yeah. Well, I just think in general, investors are very capital focused to your point. And just in general, I mean, even in the angel space, we understand the return will take much longer. And especially we're investing in pre-seed or seed companies
Mhm.
that could take 10, 12,
Yeah.
or even many more years. But ultimately, I think one of the key things is still about return in investment. And th- to your point, I see your point, and personally, I feel that is an area that is lacking as well. And there are space that are focused on impact investing, and that is a domain, but not all the
Mm.
investment firms
Yeah.
feel that is an area where they can get return. And that's just how, unfortunately, that's how the reality is. And then you ask why, I just want to give you an honest
No, I
answer.
know. I'm just curious because
Yeah,
I've been reading about alternative ways of economics, like compassionate economics is one of those where the community first invests into a program or whatever social enterprise, let's say, and then the returns come back into the community through various ways. But for this to start happening, we need to have those first players that
yeah,
say, hey, you know what, maybe there is an alternative way of economics. So I'm
yeah,
just curious. Anyway,
yeah.
thank you so much for this. I am so grateful that we've met. I look forward to seeing you, and maybe we can go for tea in Toronto when we're back from
Yeah,
this madness. Where are
yeah,
you
for
in Toronto?
sure. I'm at Bayview and sort of Finch, Bayview and
Oh,
Finch
okay.
area, North York. What
I'm
about
at
you?
Shopsa Don Mills,
Oh,
Lawrence.
Shops and Down Mills.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're not that far.
We're not.
We're
No,
not we're not that far. So I mean, I love Shops at Down Mills, and
we'll go for
I
tea.
sometimes go there for, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I noticed you recorded the whole
Mhm.
conversation. Are you planning on doing anything with the
So
recording?
what happens with the conversation? First of all, we have an artist that creates special portraits. So
Okay.
Celia Plank, she's an amazing doodle artist here in Toronto. She's done a lot of work here in the city. So all of my exhibitions, I try to be cooperative, and we do other artists as well. So she would do a portrait of you, and then we are creating a digital magazine style that will be interactive, and all of the stories will live there. I don't edit them; they're exactly as we show up. And then people at the exhibition will be able to scan a code and see all the stories, but then the magazine and the exhibition will keep growing as I keep adding other stories. So you will be able to share it, you'll be able to see other stories, and so on. So we'll see where it goes.
Okay. So everything I said today will be displayed?
Yes, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. I,
you
I
have
just, I
such an
just didn't,
empowering
I didn't
story.
know, I didn't know that before, or else I would have made it more concise.
Oh no, I think your story. You know, the reality is, one of the things I'm noticing, we all want to be very prepared, and this
Mhm.
is a good thing, but also I feel that it's so authentic when we're not, because we all have so much experience. Every woman I've interviewed has poured and showed such a variety of experience and skills
Mhm.
and talents, and it comes out authentically. And I feel your
Okay.
story was, it really touched me. It came home for
Oh,
me too.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Well, I really enjoyed meeting you, and let's do keep in touch, and
Yes,
happy
we
to
will.
grab coffee or tea at Shops of Down
Yeah,
Mills.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, bye bye. Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Bye, Mira.